I am starting to work on It's So Simple by McCalls, pattern number L9453. I had looked all over YouTube and I had not seen anyone work on this pattern. So I am going to work on this pattern. I'm going to do a video on this pattern. I've cut it out, cut out the pieces I'm using. I am making view B, but I'm not using the extended sleeves. I'm just making a long sleeve version. And I will get more into that when I actually sit at the sewing machine and begin to sew. I have a powder blue fabric with some applique or designs in them. I am back. It is later than I had hoped to be back because I ran into some sewing issues, but right now I am sewing in the darts. I am still working on the same Sew Easy pattern, and I am sewing in the darts. Always sew to a point on the darts, and you don't back stitch. You just pull off to a point, and I cut off with my snippers. I don't use the cutter on the sewing machine. Some people do, but I don't. Oh, excuse me. That is one dart. And I have a second dart that I have to sew. These are darts on the front of the dress. You sew to the point, and you just sew off the fabric, not back stitching. Just pulling off. Back stitch at the beginning, but not at the end. And what you do for these darts, you take the tail, the thread tails, and you tie them off for the darts. Tie them snugly, and I tied 2 knots. And again, I'll take my snippers and I will cut them off. The darts down. So I will press these darts going down towards the bottom of the garment. I'll press them down towards the bottom of the garment. Attach the front facing to the front of the dress. Right sides together, unlike what I have done. right sides together. And again, this is the pattern that I'm working on. It's So Simple by McCalls, pattern number L9453. I am working on view B without the decorative sleeve edge. And that's one thing that I do like about sewing. You are free to take away from a pattern and add to the pattern what you like. And that's the same thing with buying items from the store when you sew. You can make changes to ready-made items when you sew. When you sew, there's so much you can do with clothing. I'm looking for my slippers. There's so much you can do with clothing to make clothes suit your preference and style. That's why sewing is such an enjoyable hobby. So I'm adding the facing to the right side of the garment, right sides facing one another. Always back tacking. Again, still working on 1 1/2 centimeters seam allowance. Take the normal presser foot out, put that back under, and do my normal 5/8 seam allowance and straight stitch for my seams. Next thing I'll be working on will be the sleeves. I will come back when I have done all the sides. Sleeve ease. Let's talk about sleeve ease. This is the sleeve for this dress. The sleeve is bigger than the armhole. Why? I don't know, but that is the way every dress, shirt, jacket is designed. The sleeve, the shoulder, is larger than the armhole. That's why you have to have sleeve ease. You create sleeve ease by sewing 2 rows of a basting stitch, and this isn't a basting stitch because I never remember to make the stitch larger or the stitch length longer than my normal stitching length until I'm done. But this is my normal stitching length, which my normal stitching length is 3, and a basting stitch length should be longer, of at least 4, or the longest for your machine, and for my machine it's 4, but this is a 3. But you sew 2 rows of a basting stitch and you leave the tails undone. You do not backstitch because you want to be able to pull and gather and make small gathers at the shoulder, for the shoulders, to be able to fit these, to fit this shoulder into the small opening of your garment, whether it's a shirt or a jacket or a blouse or a dress. The shoulder opening is smaller than the shoulder of your sleeve. You sew 2 rows so that you can pull it from both sides of the sleeve. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm pulling it from both sides of the sleeve. Some people pull it from the bobbin side, and some people pull it from the top side. I'm pulling mine from the top thread side. And when you insert it, you can maneuver it better to fit with some pins. But now this is your sleeve ease. It's how you can ease the shoulder of your sleeve into your garment. And it's made some nice gathers in the shoulder of the garment. Now what I have to do next is take this sleeve and sew it together here. This would be the length of the arm. This is the wrong side. I've already made my cuff, and I would sew it together, right sides together, and then I would ease it into the dress. I have my shoulder. This would be the shoulder opening, and I would ease it in until it fit the shoulder opening. But this is how it should look. You have your gathers on the top. This would be the underarm section, and this would be the length of the arm. And I have already made my cuff, because I like to sew mine off. I like to sew my cuff when it's open while it's flat, instead of sewing the cuff when it's closed, when the sleeve length is closed. So I've already sewn my cuff while the sleeve was opened. That's the way I do mine. And when I know the pattern, if you follow the pattern directions. And she is done.